How do you do? Mr. Carl Lemley feels it would be a little unkind to present this picture without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death.
Let's get into the occult secret of electricity, the mystery of electricity. So, the mystery of electricity is, in a way, it is the mystery of the sub-earthly world and the mystery of death. That is an aspect of the occult secret of electricity. And to remind you of this, we don't need to look any further than Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. You literally have a deep secret about electricity there, which is that obviously in Frankenstein, you know, the mad scientist goes and gathers up all these dead parts from the cemetery, right? These old dead things. Creates a being with these dead parts. They shouldn't be around anymore. They shouldn't exist. They're dying. But then uses electricity. They wait for a lightning strike and then pulls the lever, and then Frankenstein comes alive. It's the electricity that makes him come alive. This dead thing that really shouldn't exist naturally. And so there's this idea in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein that electricity has the power to bring dead things about, to make dead things live, to make dead things walk the earth. So, what is electricity? What actually is electricity? Like, imagine you've got your positive and negative, you've got your arc right here, and it's, you've got it there. What is that? What is that arc? What is that force? That force is dying light. It is decaying light. That's what electricity is. Electricity is decayed light. It's light that is densified. And in a way, the subearthly planes, because they are the world of decay, they are the world of everything that is in a stage of death, the subatomic world is electricity. It is dying light. Now, this is in direct opposition to natural light, okay? So, natural light, the light from the sun, natural sources of light that aren't summoned by man, right? That is connected to the heavenly planes, the heavenly spheres. But electricity is something else. Electricity is rooted and lives in the subplanes because it is light that is dying. And as it dies, it becomes more and more dense. Okay. So electricity is rooted in the sub-earthly realm. It's rooted in the hell realms. And it is therefore a medium for these harmonic forces to be in and to enter. I'm sure you guys are like, oh, you know, everything around is electricity. So, I mean, I'm not saying this so you have to become a Luddite and like go and move into the woods and be extreme. Again, it's okay. It's just we have to understand what it is. I mean, we can use electricity. We can use technology. We just have to understand what it is, the responsibility of it, what it means for us, and how to use it properly so we can maintain our natural essence and maintain our selves without getting caught up. Okay? Slowly caught up into a very synthetic, artificial way of life because we don't understand the kind of developments that are going on and that they're extreme. So the natural light is rooted in the supernatural heavenly realm, the natural realm, and it's really a medium for angels and for heavenly beings and for those beautiful spiritual hierarchies that are part of our natural world, not fallen. But the harmonic, and Ahriman, by the way, in Steiner's cosmology is basically like Satan. So Steiner has a different sort of description of evil. He places Lucifer and Ahriman as different poles of evil. I have a lecture on that on my channel if you want to watch that, if you don't know. So when I say Ahriman and the Asuras, I'm talking about basically Satan and demonic forces, just for clarification here. So Ahriman and the Asuric forces, the Ahrimanic spirits, the fallen Ahrimanic angels, all the beings in that subworld, they use electricity as its medium. And there's also one really fascinating thing about our relationship with electricity, which is that obviously every human is electric. Our nervous system runs on electrical impulses. You know, if you go get an EKG, you'll see that, right? We're electrical beings, it's fine. And that really symbolizes, that electricity in us symbolizes our connection to the subplanes naturally, and also to the harmonic essence, because everything is also within us. Okay, so we have to understand when talking about dark things, the whole point of discussing this is not so that you can be like, whoa, and just push it all away and turn off the lecture and be like, I don't want anything to do with this. The whole point is not trying to avoid this stuff to think that you're going to be unpure if you hear it. No, the whole point is actually being able to integrate that shadow, to integrate that darkness, because we all have harmonic essences and forces within us. We have luciferic essences and forces within us. We have light and shadow. Our job is to integrate and overcome these forces and ultimately redeem these entities in the lower planes. So it's redemptive. Our whole life is really redemptive. It's an act of, we redeem ourselves, and we even redeem other people. We redeem other forces around us. So the whole point in us being here is really to experience these shadows within ourselves, integrate them and overcome them, and even redeem people and forces beyond our own self. That's the point. That's the core of esoteric Christianity, that Christ is the great redeemer. You are the great redeemer. I am the great redeemer. That is within you. That is all of our journey here. So it's not about avoiding these forces and being like, oh, well, if I just don't interact with it, I won't attract it, like law of attraction. No, it is about facing it head on and integrating it. Because I promise you, if you avoid understanding this because it's uncomfortable, that's when it starts to get control, right? So you have to be able to face your shadow. And that is how you become a master, right? So very interestingly, this is very probably one. This is really fascinating within anthroposophy, is that every single human being actually has a doppelganger that is of the harmonic nature, and the collective human doppelganger is Ahriman himself, right? But we all kind of have this harmonic essence, this harmonic spirit that is with us. And we sort of learn from that entity, and it kind of learns from us. Just like we have a guardian angel, right? We have a guardian angel We're surrounded by these forces, and we're integrating them and working on them. And this harmonic doppelganger, or this harmonic essence, it enters our life it enters our body when we're born, right? And it lives within the electrical system of our body, right? So we are literally a microcosm of heaven and earth, really. And so that's how we learn about the harmonic materialist impulses. We actually have a essence within us that is that we overcome, that we face. And that's where you get the eternal image of Michael slaying Lucifer, Michael slaying the dragon. You have Ahura Mazda that is grabbing Ahriman by the horn and by the dagger and keeping that harmonic force at bay. Why? Because it's within us. You've got to grab it by the horn, grab it by the dagger. You've got to know what it is. You've got to face it. He's facing it. Ahura Mazda is facing Ahriman. He's not running from it. He's facing it. He's saying, what can you teach me? I'm strong. I have Christ within. I can face this. I can transform this. Okay, that's our relationship with these forces. Okay? So that is part of the mystery of electricity. We are electrical beings. We have an aspect of us that is electrical. And according to the anthroposophical system too, electricity didn't even come into the Earth's existence until basically the end of the Lemurian epoch, and it is the essence of old moon. So within the electrical energy are sort of the forces of the old moon, or the forces of moon. Okay, and that is a massive hint and a massive secret about the nature of electricity right there. Okay, and so obviously if you're like a dark magician, right, you're gonna want to use electricity. You're gonna be fascinated by it because it allows you to contact this like dark world. And so if you are immoral, if you are a black magician, you're going to be really interested in basically practicing your magical practices of summoning and controlling the world through electrical forces, through magnetism, through all of these essences, because magnetism is also in the subatomic plane, right? Radiation, all this kind of stuff. These are forces that are directly from the subplanes. They're subearthly. They're by nature demonic unless you can rise to such a high level of morality that you can cancel it out. But if someone just goes in there neutrally, they're going to be overtaken. These are incredibly powerful forces. Okay. So electricity itself is not necessarily evil, but it contains these inhuman, subhuman forces because it's dying light. And if you're not aware and you're not striving to build spiritual roots and you're not striving to live an ethical, moral life, a spiritual life, then it's very easy for these forces to overtake. And that's the whole point of this lecture on the human level, right? Is entering into these realms without being prepared and bringing forward all these technologies that basically summon these realms and leak them out onto the earth, because you just have no concept of what you're doing, or you're just completely possessed by these beings, right? So another thing about electricity, and even these other forces as well that are in the subplanes, but really electricity and the increased electrification of the earth, is it actually makes it harder for people to think. So we keep just putting all these satellites, Starlink, into the atmosphere, right, that are basically radiating down on us. And no one really goes and says, what is the spiritual effect of that? What is going to be the effect on our consciousness as electrical beings, as beings of ether, as beings of consciousness? What is that going to do? We just keep putting more and more. We don't even really need them, honestly. We keep surrounding the Earth with all these satellites that are basically radiating down on us, creating a live electric mass. And what happens to consciousness, and Rudolf Steiner knew this 100 years ago with electricity, and they knew this actually, they were noticing that the more electrified the cities would become and people would become, the less they could think properly. And so the more electrified the Earth becomes, the harder it is to think, because it directly interferes with the head. Electrical currents directly interfere with the head. And so the more electrified the Earth becomes, the harder it is to think your own thoughts, the harder it is to think, because that actually interferes with our mind. And we all know, well, not everybody, but a lot of MK Ultra and mind control experiments directly include electricity. They directly include, magnets, and they include these devices essentially. And so, we need to be careful moving forward that we're not basically creating the environment of the subatomic plane on the Earth, of the hell realms on the Earth, by having the Earth swimming in electricity and radiation and Wi-Fi. It affects your consciousness. It is silly to be like, yeah, I want like 10G, I want 50G, and to just go head forward into that and not stop for 1 second and think, well, is this going to affect our thinking? Is this going to affect our mind? Of course it is. So we need to maybe pump the brakes a little bit with that. Okay, here is a quote from Rudolf Steiner on electricity being a medium for demonic forces. And in particular, already in the fifth epoch, which is ours, it will be possible for men to bring evil over the earth by exploiting the force of electricity, which will assume far greater dimensions than hitherto. Even directly out of the force of electricity itself, evil comes over the earth. Now, it was really, and that's from GA 273. And I found that, these lecture series, that lecture was really interesting. And his lectures on electricity and the Antichrist are interesting as well, because he did not hold back. When he was visioning and looking into the future, he actually, at one point, he actually said that atoms and like the electrical forces are basically tiny demons if the people who are working with them are not of the highest spiritual nature. They basically are by default tiny little demonic entities. So he really didn't hold back, and there were so many great quotes about this that were in the Steiner lectures that he didn't hold back about what he thought about these super technologies and working with the atom and electricity and magnetism. It was definitely how Rudolf Steiner saw the Antichrist coming forward. He saw these forces as being detrimental to humanity if used by unethical people. There was a great concern that these forces were just being treated like, this is science. This is just natural science. This is just, there is no good, there is no evil, there is no spiritual world. This is just science. We're just going to approach extremely dangerous spiritual things like it's just science. And this was something that really worried him, to the point when he was looking into the future at the end of the post-Atlantean epoch, he's like, I see the world covered by basically etheric electrical mass of radiation and electricity and magnetism to the point that it's like a synthetic, mechanical, self-functioning world. This is where this ends up going, because the ultimate goal for people creating these technologies, whether they know it or not, they're being used to basically create the 8th sphere on Earth. They're being used. They're being lied to keep this development of technology going, pushing into heights that are not even necessary for existence, honest existence. You don't need that. Not where we are at our development. We don't need these things. But it's being pushed because there needs to be that unnatural electrical radiation sphere around the Earth by the end of our epoch. That needs to happen for Ahriman, for Antichrist forces. That's what needs to happen, because those are the forces that they exist in. So the Earth will eventually become a sphere in which Ahriman and Ahrimanic spirits can outwardly live and control. This is the goal. If the Earth becomes a living electric mass, this means it will be impossible for entities within the subatomic level of existence. This means it will be possible for the entities within the subatomic existence to roam free. So if you take the natural Earth, right, the organic natural Earth, and you override every single organic process with a synthetic one, which is exactly what we're seeing. Every being has to be genetically modified, okay? Every child has to become synthetic and genetically modified. You know, we have to have all of these machines built that do everything for us because we don't understand the nature in simple tasks and chopping wood and carrying water, cooking, right? These are the acts that slow us down, that get us into our body, that connect us with God because they're simple. All of that is being removed in the favor of hyper technology, a hyper technological society that makes it impossible to think, that makes it difficult to function. And everything organic, everything natural is redone in a synthetic way, whether it be genetically, which I've spoken about a lot, or whether it be through actually creating machines to do things. So the mechanical nature of the subatomic plane of hell, of the lower realms, is made on Earth by these people that are possessed by these dark forces. That is what Antichrist is. That is what they want. To create a synthetic Earth. Everything is rewritten by man, because the only way to get man to do these things is to make man think he's God. The higher path is to humble yourself before God. The lower path is to think that you are God. Yeah, I can redesign a human being. I can create a human being. I can practice eugenics. Right? Like this is the Darwinian, stuff that goes on. That's, the natural logical conclusion to Darwinism is basically eugenics. Survival of the fittest, might is right. Some people should exist, some shouldn't. Genetic engineering of certain beings at the expense of everything natural and mysterious that makes us who we are. This is the way of Antichrist. That is the culture of Antichrist. To the point that there's even a false atmosphere created out of electricity and radiation, a kind of false charged ether, magnetism. It's like literally creating the subatomic planes hell around Earth, because those are the things that exist. That is the nature of those planes, and you're bringing it to the Earth, making Earth a machine. The machine nature is the nature of the realm of death. The more machine-like humanity becomes, the more like death they become, okay? The more machine-like the Earth becomes, the more like death the Earth becomes. Okay. So the living etheric mass means it will be possible for the entities on the subatomic level of existence to roam free. This is because demonic forces from the subplanes of the earth live in electricity. Electricity is their medium, and in the natural world. Is their medium in the natural world. And if electricity is one of their mediums, then it can also be used to summon them.